So, first thing I'll say is I'm not here on behalf of my employer. So I think that we would all agree that your giving is a reflection of the things that you care about. The things that you are aligned with and the things that you identify with often drive your philanthropic acts. You may also donate to an organization for personal reasons, such as they supported you or your community in a time of need, or your friend or family or folks in your community may suffer from a disease and you support that organization. Nonetheless, at the heart of it is what you care about most. There are many amazing organizations that are surviving or not based on the amount of frequency of charitable giving. Many of these organizations, whether they receive large or small amounts, are the backbone of their communities or a pillar organization in their respective cities. And so if we agree that your giving is a reflection of the things that you care about, then what does the unfunded report by the Foundation for Black Communities tell us about what you care about and who deserves care? According to the report, the Canadian philanthropic sector has failed to support the urgent and specific needs of the Black community. As the philanthropic sector stands, it lacks the tools and knowledge to support Black communities effectively. Black-led organizations received only 0.03% of total grant funds between 2017 and 2018, 0.03. The report also shows that for every $100 donated, Black organizations receive as little as 7 cents. 7 cents. If your giving is a reflection of the things you care about, then what type of care does 0.03% or 7 cents say? One may ponder who is winning and who is losing, year in and year out. If the same people have played the same game and continue to benefit unchecked, unregulated, why would they change the rules? Because they are winning. Racism, sexism, discrimination, and all forms of inequities are insidiously embedded and threaded through the social fabric of society. It's no surprise that we see this reflected in the philanthropic sector. So you may ask yourself, why don't more people speak up? Well, in a society that views cis, straight, white, and able as the norm, would you speak up if you're a minority voice, underfunded, undervalued, to potentially jeopardize further funding even more? The structural and institutional inequities that exist in our society have taken decades to build, and they'll take decades to dismantle. So for real change to occur, the actions and steps moving forward must be deliberate, they must be strategic, they must be direct, and they must be purposeful. So remember, if your giving reflects the things that you care about, so if the philanthropy sector is defined as the desire to promote the welfare of others, typically through financial donations or service, what does it tell us if organizations led, owned, and operated by Black Canadians are undervalued and under-resourced? And so as I stand here as an 8th-generation African Nova Scotian who has worked with all levels of government, many years in nonprofit sector on boards, as an employee, as well as founding a few of my own in community, it's not the notion of less amount of funds going to non-white or non-white-led organizations that makes you wince. It's the fact that the gut feeling of some of you being discriminatory or having racist and colonial ideologies or directly contributing to the problem that makes you uncomfortable. It is the notion that someone that looks like me is raising the issue that clashes with your objective worldview. Although I am not the issue, and you are, it is the notion that I'm standing here naming some of the issues that makes you uncomfortable. It is not the issue itself that makes you, corporations, or sectors move. It's the mere fact of being called out publicly for the issue and the risk of bad PR that makes you move. So who is really winning here? Who is really losing here? That depends on your perspective. I'm looking at this with the lens of fair and unfair, just and unjust, equitable and inequitable. And so to further explain this, the Eurocentric worldview is individualistic and for self over group and collective. The Afrocentric worldview is for collective and advancement of the group or community rather than self. So when I analyze this issue, it makes perfect sense to me because you're protecting your own interests. And as I've said before, your giving reflects those things you care about the most. In a Eurocentric worldview, that would be yourself. And so to quote Andrew Chunalau, CEO of the Community Foundations of Canada, the challenge of systemic racism is not one we will tackle through grants. It's one that requires us to take a look in the mirror figuratively and literally, to look inward and to ask ourselves some tough questions. Why have we been apprehensive to embrace social justice? Why do we go silent when asked about our own power and privilege? Why do we fail to acknowledge how our own business model perpetuates inequity? Why did we ignore Desmond Cole? End quote. I think some of you know the answer to those questions. Annika Allen, sixth-generation Ojibwe Canadian woman, founder of the Empathy Agency, to quote her from her Reimagined Canada article published in 2020 titled "Two Faces of Charity," "The philanthropic sector, by its very nature and definition, purports to serve disadvantaged communities, and over the years has presented itself as a more people-centered, equity-driven alternative to the cold corporate world. Due to the historical racism and systemic inequities of the majority of the disadvantaged communities are predominantly lower-income Black and brown citizens who have little social capital and little financial security. The nonprofit industry rakes in billions of dollars annually off the creation of programs and services designed with this demographic in mind," end quote. In the community world, if you want to know what is happening in a city, look to the margins of the margins. In the philanthropic sector, I believe the margins have been speaking. If we continue to keep doing what we've been doing, we will continue to keep getting what we've been getting. The past will always continue to repeat itself if the present stops listening or continues not to listen. And so some of you are squirming in your seats. Some of you are questioning why they let me speak today. And others, a small minority, are appreciative of this talk and will actively check their biases. That is the problem. A small minority can crack the foundation, but the collective can make it crumble. We need everyone. And so I'm not going to tell you who is winning. I'm not going to tell you who is winning or who is losing. I think you know the answer. If your giving reflects those things that you care about, I will leave you with this question. What is it that you care about?